Hi, and welcome to my little channel. Thank you for dropping by. As usual, it's a pleasure to have you around. If you're new here, do consider giving it a little like and subscribe to this channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. We're getting awfully close to 1,000 subscribers, and well, that's a lot more than I expected, so I'm super happy about that. Thank you very much, everybody. Yeah, consider clicking the little bell icon as well. It'll help you stay in touch with what I do. Anyway, yeah, a bit of a special one today. I'm going to talk about mistakes and what I do when things don't go my way. This drawing, it was one of those mornings where I didn't have a real idea what I wanted to draw. But I have to draw, I have to practice, I have to build my portfolio, I have to keep learning, so I have to draw. I went for some architecture because often when I'm uninspired, I think it's a good way to get going. So yeah, I just started by making blocks, making boxes. That's always how my drawing starts, and that sets up a space and a volume, and then I basically sculpt it. I carve it, I extrude it until something comes out. There's no great vision that inspires the drawing. There's no precise idea or image of what I'm after. This is very much built as I go. And things didn't go really the way I wanted on several levels. I messed up the perspective at some point, and it got me a bit irritated. Still get away with it because part of what's messed up is actually outside of the frame, so I could rationalize it and justify it in different ways. But anyway, it's far from perfect. In design, I messed up as well because I should have been more careful about a few things and about proportions, and I didn't. And I made more perspective mistakes later in the drawing, which irritated me and had me change a bit of the design, but I was already inking at that stage. And finally, lighting did my head in when I tried to work the shadows for this drawing, because again, I refused to go and spend the time to learn the proper methods correctly, and I eyeballed stuff, and it got messy. But in the end, first and foremost, I pushed through the drawing. I'm not going to abandon the sketchbook page. I'm not going to leave something unfinished. I'm going to make a drawing out of it, whether it be a good one or a bad one. That's a different story, but it will be finished. And I used my whole bag of tricks to try and save this drawing. You know, something I say a lot on the channel is your mistakes, you should learn to fix them, distract from them, or just learn to live with them. And in this drawing, it was really a case where I had to use all three instances of that. So yeah, the construction phase here is going to be a bit boring and tedious and long. That was a 4-hour drawing, and I wasn't particularly fast on it, as you can see. So a little boring, but again, it's good to remind yourself that, you know, by building a box, you will have the volume and all the marks you need to make your perspective as good as you can make it. And sorry for the chirping of my little boys in the background again. They're still on holiday for another week, and well, they feel a little cooped up these days, so they can get quite loud. Anyway, yeah, we're building here. I haven't made any major mistakes yet. We'll get there. And I'm just struggling with the design. You know, I don't like what I call empty spaces and having big flat surfaces without anything worth watching, worth seeing on them. And the left part of the picture here will be quite some work in design. Anyway, hang on a sec. I got to talk to my kids. I'll time lapse for a second and be right back. Okay, hopefully a little more quiet. So yeah, I keep a building here, boxes on top of boxes, and boxes inside of boxes, and boxes outside of boxes. It's all about boxes in the end. And then this big flat surface here. I went through 3-4 ideas of how it could look, but I couldn't get it balanced. I wanted to cut in it, make some angles, not have it all flat, just so it would be a little more interesting. But nothing I tried really worked, and it would have been just complicating my life with the shadows and textures and stuff. And it just I wasn't happy. So this is me trying stuff that I won't be keeping in the final image. The idea was good, but I couldn't get the execution right. So out of frustration, I took my pen out and decided to start inking a few things. And first mistakes will come pretty soon. But anyway, we got those repeating shapes, because I think when you design something, it's nice to have repeating shapes. And I need to talk to my kids again, so again, I'll be right back. Give me a second. Okay, and I've just done my first mistake here on the top box. I forgot to put a horizontal plane that's present on all the others, so that slope is not only incorrect in height, but in width. I haven't spotted it at that point. I'll spot it now when I figure out that two of my lines on top don't really go where I want them to. Yep. What have I done? What? Yeah, that was quite a bit of frustration. So these moments where you see me stop drawing is me thinking. And remember, this is times. I'm speeding up things here by a factor of 100. So yeah, there were moments of deep thought and deep regret and deep despair. But I think there's only one point in which I almost considered not continuing this drawing, which is rare. But in the end, maybe my ego got the best of me, and I said, well, no, you're here to make a drawing, so you better finish it. Anyway, I've got all the blocks in place now. This will be my city, my buildings. And now I have to make it look nice. This is when some of the... Ooh, I messed up my line here as well. This is when my bag of tricks comes out. Figuring out how to distract... Well, actually fix some mistakes. Now, that top box here cannot be like the others, so I gave it another front and decided this would be an opening of some kind, as opposed to the others, which have... they're going to have some big vents of some sort. So that's me trying to fix a mistake right there. Later on, we're going to come with the distraction method. And that'll be a lot through the use of light and textures. Put the contrast where I want the eye to go, and try to make that stand out more than the places I've messed up. Again, I will struggle with that because this is a reasonably complex surface, and I'm not great at doing light. This is part of what I'm really working on these days. Like simple lighting in a closed environment, I'm comfortable with, but when it comes to do the hard shadows on a big complicated surface like this, it's a bit trickier, and I'm not super comfortable with it. It's still something I need to get some mileage on. Anyway, texture. Here we go. Put some stuff and things in different places. I know I will want to have some sense of scale with this drawing, so I'll actually put some windows for once, but I'll make them tiny, 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 like I used to do in my first spaceships drawings. They're just going to be little dots of white that represent windows. But we'll come to that in a moment. Right now it's still texture. Put some vents, put some fins, put some grids, put some texture left and right. Start to fill up all this drawing. and it's coming around okay. It's not too bad at this stage, but when it comes to the shadows, it'll be complicated. There was a small mistake here, but that one nobody will see. We'll get away with it. So yeah, let's push through a little and come back when we have to distract about things. Okay, this was all filling empty spaces, placing the windows I've just talked about, and just more agreeable, more stuff, make the image a little busier. This is a large scale thing, so I don't want to put a million little details. I still want to have some reasonably empty surfaces, but not crazy much. Just testing some markers here to make sure they have enough ink, because I got caught so many times starting something like this and right about here running out of ink. But this is okay, and I'm using some cheaper markers today, some Style File. They're not dirt cheap, but they're a lot cheaper than Copic, and they're not too bad. So when I do large scale like that, that uses a lot of ink, I think it's a sensible decision. Especially that I'm going to be doing larger drawing these days, because a couple of these might end up being scanned and go to my print store, which is opening in a couple of weeks. And yeah, I think I'm going to be doing more and more A4, which will allow me to make some nice larger prints. Keep an eye on that. I talk about it on my Instagram and on Reddit. Give a follow if you haven't yet. The print store will come out will be launched in a couple of weeks, and there will be some A4, A3, and A2 versions of some of my drawings. I'll give you a little insider bit. The first series will be architecture drawings, so drawings a little like this one. There'll be 5 of them, and it's going to be a super limited edition. Like, there are going to be 10 copies in each size, except for A2, where there will only be 5 copies. So that's going to be like 25 copies of the drawing altogether. All will be numbered and come with a certificate of authenticity and all the nice stuff. So if that's something you have interest in, keep an eye out on my Instagram. I'll update as I go, and hopefully in a couple of weeks we have the big launch, and yeah, you might find something you like. Anyway, distraction. That's going to come with light and hard shadows and contrast. This is the easy bit, sorry, where I just put a bunch of one value and then I darken left and right, what faces up, down, left, right. This is reasonably straightforward, and still I'm going to get a bit confused, you'll see. So there we go. The real challenge is going to be the cast shadow, the hard shadow that's going to fall on the left of the picture. Especially since, honestly, I don't have a good idea what the shape and height on the wall on the left side is. So I'm going to make silly mistakes like what I'm doing now. But that's reasonably easy to fix. So this makes no sense the way I'm doing it here, but that's how my brain decided things should be at that point. But we're okay, because even though this is a very dark shade, I'm only gonna expand on this shadow. I'm starting small, knowing that if I made it too small, I can make it bigger, as opposed to if I made it bigger, well, I couldn't go any smaller. So I blended the shadow a little because I thought it gave a nice feel to the image. So I used a warm 8, warm 6, warm 4, I think all the way down to warm 2 to make that little blur effect that you see here. Again, I'm stressed out, I'm tired, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm frustrated with this drawing. So I'm not really thinking, I'm just not doing things the right way. And I'm hoping I'll get away with it. It's gonna get a bit worse in a moment, but there you go. There should be a hard shadow here, but it makes no sense because my left shadow doesn't make sense, so that's gonna get a lot bigger in a moment. These here are again completely eyeballed, and they're not gonna make a lot of sense either. And we'll come back to fix that in a moment. At least the contrast in the image is growing, and that's a good thing. We need contrast in a drawing. So anyway, this is me again frustrated, and this is another mistake. The shadow shouldn't fall down on the side of the building like I'm gonna make it in a moment. This makes sense. This doesn't. So again, upset, especially that's if the shadow is that big on the right, it should be bigger on the left. So we're gonna get back into it. I'm trying to figure out, and then I realize there's an angle here that makes no sense. So because that this structure wouldn't cast its own shadow here, everything would be covered by the shadow of the big wall on the left. So I'm gonna say it's something like this ish. I'm afraid at this stage it's gonna get too dark, but in the end it works. I'm gonna make it even bigger to cover. There you go. The cast shadow of the bridge that didn't really belong here. I'm gonna do a little blending as I did before. Just soften this up a little. My idea here is that this blending zone between the shadow on the left and the lit building on the right is actually what will catch the attention of anybody watching and seeing that drawing. Here we go. These will be windows, or at least where the windows will be. They'll be tiny little dots because I wanted this to have a massive scale. I don't like the streaks on the right hand side, so I'll end up redoing that shadow. I'm darkening things up slowly, again, because you can always go darker, but you can't go brighter, remember that. I'm putting a little shadow again here, left and right. I'm going to blend them a little in a moment. Rounding up corners, and here we go with what in my mind should look like windows. Another mistake here, I should have taken my ruler and my pencil and made some lines to make sure they were perfectly aligned, which they're not. So that looks a little messy. Next time I'll do better. I considered here putting more texture boxes left and right, but abandoned the idea, thinking it wouldn't look that fantastic. So we're just going to put a little traces of usage, traces of age. Again, starting gently and building up as I go, trying not to overwork it. and have things still make some sense. I'll be putting more rust because that's again a way to add to the image and distract from the weak points of the image. So here we go. I always use the same. I'm gonna feel terrible when these ones are gone and dry. I'll have to find some replacements. I've had these for years. But there you go, little spots of rust. Simple stuff. If there's anything in this drawing or in another that you would like me to focus on in a future video, please leave a comment and tell me what you'd like to hear. I'm more than happy to share whatever experience I have and see if I can give you a pointer or two. But the feedback is essential, so don't be shy. If you've got anything to say, if there's anything you'd like to ask, please do so. I'll be more than happy to try and help you out. So yeah, darkened this corner because that should be very dark, and now I'm just going through the panels very lightly with this pen. It's a good way, marker, sorry. It's a good way to show that there's some dirt built up there, and that helps give an impression of volume as well as texture and age at the same time. So it's an easy trick. Time for some highlights, left and right, just panel gaps, stuff like that. Stuff that needs the shadow, make it look like it can stand out a bit more. And that's pretty much the end of that drawing. It was very frustrating. The whole experience for me was like how to finish a drawing that's not going my way. I wasn't crazy inspired. I made some design mistakes. I made some perspective mistakes. I made some color mistakes. It was not easy, but I think it's important to push through and not abandon a drawing. It shouldn't make you unhappy, it shouldn't do your head in, but try to finish your drawings, and you know it's fine if it's bad. You still finished it, and that's how you get better, I think. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you again for dropping by. Give a like, give a subscribe, and keep on coming back. Take care.